Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, March 26, 2024 regular closed session meeting of the EBMUD Board of Directors. All members are present. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public online who wish to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item?
I have no hands online.
Okay. Any members of the public? Present.
I have one member of the public present.
Right.
And I'm gonna hand the card and handouts. So, various handouts with names written at the top. And this is Yvette? Okay. Thank
Are
you.
these comments related to an agenda item or non-agenda item?
Non-agenda items.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. I provided the warning committee members two documents. One was a document that I handed out at the retirement board meeting. I just wanted to catch Director Patterson and Director Katz up on what I talked about at the retirement board meeting. I also provided a document called California Supreme Court Clarifies a Standard for Misuse of Public Funds Convictions. And the reason I brought this up is because I know that you're going to be speaking in closed session about the Pierce Bland case. There's a hearing coming up in May. I think it's May 5th. And I know the district is lawyering up for the Ninth Circuit appeal. I'm hoping that maybe one day the district will lawyer up with Attorney Jennifer B. Henning. Because in this article that I give you, she talks about how the court, I guess, defined what misappropriation of public funds convictions mean. And that's Government Code 424. And as the district should know by now, there is no statute of limitations on the misuse of public funds. And any agency can bring up charges anytime. The other document that I just gave you is the one that I passed out on March 28th. On March 28th, it referred to a few things that were relevant on March 28, 2023, and that happen to be relevant today. It talks about the Duffy report and what she characterized as problems with what Mr. Craig Spencer did. And I'm just going to read one line of that and just remind this board that as you lawyer up with a firm that, when I looked it up, it looked like they're all white. As you lawyer up to defend the indefensible, I hope that you lawyer up to really hold Mr. Spencer accountable for misuse of public funds, because here it says that Mr. Spencer was capable of researching for himself the extent of due process, and that he could have just asked his personal attorney. But instead, Ms. Acosta arranged for full payment of Mr. Spencer's lawyer's fees to be paid to him from district funds following an investigation, and that the account payable group disguised the payee's name and the purpose of the payment, and to have the matter retained in a discrete or even a secret file, which is, I believe, in violation of Penal Code 424. That's all I have for right now. I'll be returning at the 1:15 meeting. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
One moment. No other speakers for public comment?
The board will now convene to conference room 8 to discuss closed session agenda items 1A through 1C, and we're scheduled to return here for the regular meeting at 1:15. See you then. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, March 26, 2024 regular business meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. We will receive a report from this morning's Recycled Water Strategic Plan Workshop and Finance Administration Committee under item 12. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Chan,
Present.
Director Katz,
Present.
Director Lenny,
Here.
Director Patterson,
Here.
Director Young. Here. President McIntosh.
Here, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I have to now turn the meeting over briefly to Vice President Bill Patterson.
Thank you, Lisa. To all assembled today, let me just say it is a great day in the history of East Bay Municipal Utility District and for my co-comrade, Lisa McIntosh. Today, I have the pleasure and honor of recognizing President Lisa McIntosh for 25 years of service on the East Bay Municipal Utility District Board of Directors.
It's a long time.
Lisa was appointed in 1999 to fill the unexpired term of Director John Joya. She is the first African-American woman to serve on East Bay MUD's Board of Directors. 2024 marks Lisa's 5th term as president of the Board of Directors, having previously led the board in 2007, 2008, 2008, 2009, 2012, and 2013, 2018, and 2019. Lisa led the board through the launch of the Water Supply Management Plan, setting our strategy for providing the East Bay with reliable water supplies through the year 2040. This year, Lisa led the board through a climate action plan update that will ensure the district is prepared to meet the challenges of climate change. Lisa has been an ardent supporter of equity in all aspects of East Bay MUD's work, from facilitating contract participation by minority and women-owned businesses to ensuring the district conservation and recycling efforts get exposure in all parts of our service area. Lisa was instrumental in working with staff to apply the same strategic thinking to the subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The result was the implementation of DEI cultural audit, which became the framework for the district's first diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. Lisa's commitment to the community is reflected in her dedication to ensuring that water service is affordable to all East Bay residents and businesses, and in her continuing advocacy for creating job training programs in partnership with local community organizations and colleges throughout the service area. Lisa's commitment to affordability was demonstrated during her 2017-2019 presidency, when the district expanded the customer assistance program's range and visibility to reach our most disadvantaged customers. In addition to her service on the East Bay MUD Board, Lesa has chaired the Legislative Human Resources Committee and represented East Bay MUD on the Special Districts Association of Contra Costa County and on the Aqua Federal Affairs Committee. She has also served as an elected member of her Aqua Region 5 Board. Throughout her service, Lesa has worked to ensure all residents can afford water services and that everyone has access to the career and educational opportunities the district has to offer. On behalf of the board, staff, and the 1.4 million customers, thank you, Lesa, for your 25 years of leadership as a member of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. Your leadership and collaboration have led to many successes for the district and its customers, and yours truly. I now present you with your 25-year service pin.
Thank you. I don't know, you guys have to just imagine, for someone like me to sit and just listen to all of that is rather painful. But I thank you so much, and it's been an honor serving with you guys. Thank you.
It was pleasurable pain.
Thank you, thank you. I wasn't here at our last meeting. I didn't want anybody to think I had just run away because I didn't want to go through this. But thank you. All right, that moves us on. Bill, are you turning the meeting back over?
Yes, I am.
Okay. There are no announcements from closed session. Public comment, Madam Secretary. Are there any members, any of the public online for agenda or non-agenda items?
I don't have any hands as of yet. You have one card at your place.
I have one card for an audience member in person, and that's Yvette Rivera. And this is for number 5, Yvette?
Actually, I'm going to speak at the public portion of the meeting, and then for
Then you'll
agenda-
speak at on
Yes,
number
when
5?
5 comes up.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
You know the drill.
Thank you. So first of all, let me congratulate you for your 25 years of public service. I have witnessed you really advocating, trying to get this district to move in a direction that reflects the population of the community. So I know that you have tried, so I thank you for being one of the voices, and Director Young for being strong voices that brought forward that Winners Group report. So thank you.
Thank you, Yvette.
I passed out a few documents this morning, and one of them was a retirement document that I passed out at a retirement board meeting. And I ran into an employee before this meeting that worked for Contra Costa County before. And he's been here for a little while. And I said, why did you leave Contra Costa? They have 100% medical. And he goes, I didn't know until I got here. And I said, are you going to be going back so you can get the 100% medical? He goes, I don't know. But I told him that maybe East Bay MUD will move in a direction so that this agency matches the neighboring water agencies so that we don't lose employees, because that's been happening since I arrived at East Bay MUD. So that's an aside. I provided this board a document that appears to be authored by Jennifer Henning, and she works for the California State Association of Counties. I provided it to everybody. And it talks about California Supreme Court clarifies the standard for misuse of public funds convictions. So it pretty much provides case law that spells out who would be convicted or who could be convicted under Penal Code Section 424. misuse of public funds. And I mentioned this morning how you're going to be talking about an appellate law firm that's going to be hired. I said this morning, you're lawyering up. I hope that you also you lawyer up, and maybe with Ms. Henning, to address the misappropriation of funds that was highlighted in the Jan Duffy report. And I provided you a section of the Jan Duffy report. I'm just going to read
Wait.
one line.
Yvette, are you moving from one item to the other?
Yes. No. That's good. I have an agenda for that one.
All right.
So in this case, in this Jan Duffy report, she said, without question, however, the most egregious example of the failure of Mr. Spencer and Ms. Acosta's and ultimately East Bay MUD's leadership in this matter is the fact that Mr. Spencer hired his own counsel to represent him during the investigation phase. Basically, she talks about how it was inappropriate to be paid for a personal lawyer during a routine investigation. I'm going to go ahead and yield, and I'll wait till the agenda item comes up to finish. Thank you.
Right.
I yield.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, any further speakers, whether online or in person?
No further public comment?
All right, thank you. That moves us now to the consent calendar to consider items 1 through 6. Are there any comments from the public on consent calendar items? Oh, I'm removing item number 5. If not, do we have a motion?
The rest of the items.
Second.
All right. Any questions, any thoughts, any concerns? All right, then have a motion and a second for moving items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposition? All right, that brings us to item number 5. Ms. Rivera.
Thank you. I have a question. It says authorize this litigation firm to provide services. Is there an amount, or are they getting a blank check? That's a question, so I don't know if you can answer that.
The amount that they're being authorized is privileged until the end of the litigation.
So the public doesn't get a right to know how much money this board is approving for litigation? That doesn't seem that it's, that seems like it might be a questionable board item, since the public is supposed to have the right to know what's going to be done with the public's money. So can you tell me how much an hour they charge? Is it $5,000 an hour, or?
We will not be providing any of that information to you until the end of the litigation.
Okay, so let's start with the fact that this is an all-white firm that's being brought in to litigate a jury decision. We're not even talking a motion to dismiss decision. We're talking about a jury decision. And as I've already pointed out, East Bay MUD it starts off at $8 million. Then I believe it's another $4 to $5 million for the Pierce Bland attorney firm. Then it's another amount for whatever East Bay MUD's attorneys. So let's say it's $2 million, $3 million. Now we have a law firm that's being brought in, not for a motion to dismiss litigation, but for a jury that decided that East Bay MUD was in the wrong. So it may get to the point where the Ninth Circuit says, well, we can't reverse the jury decision, but maybe we may be able to reduce the amount. East Bay MUD is still going to lose. East Bay MUD is still going to lose, but the amount that they lose is going to grow exponentially because we still have the original $8 million that is accruing interest. So I'm going to look into whether or not it's permissible under the Brown Act to allow a contract to be approved without a monetary cap. But I'm looking forward to the hearing that's going to happen on May the 5th, and definitely looking forward to the Ninth Circuit litigation, which I'm sure a few of us are going to attend. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you.
I'll move the item. Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Director Lenny and a second by Director Patterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right. One abstention. Director Chan. All right, that moves us to, oh, maybe I should clarify that on the consent calendar, the maker of the motion was Director Lenny? And the second was Bill? All right, just for the record. That moves us on to determination and discussion, and General Manager Chan will introduce each item.
Yes, so for our first item, we have our Treasury Manager, Robbie Hanna, here to discuss extending the liquidity agreements for our commercial paper for the water system. The Finance Administration Committee heard this item this morning and unanimously supported staff's recommendation to extend the agreement. Robbie?
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, I can wait.
Zoom is not our friend today.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. So I have a short presentation here. So as a reminder, we have two series of commercial paper on our water side, and that totals $281 million. Commercial paper is a form of variable rate debt, and to have commercial paper, you have to back it up with liquidity agreements from banks. And the banks basically sit there and they will step in if we were ever not able to remarket our commercial paper. We currently have agreements with two banks, Sumitomo and Bank of America, and the terms of those agreements expire this fiscal year for both of them, and so that's why we're here today to talk about this extension. So each of the two banks agreed to extend with what were good terms and pricing. Sumitomo has agreed to extend 5 years at a fee of 0.32%, and Bank of America has agreed to extend 4 years at a fee of 0.32%. And that percentage is multiplied by the amount of commercial paper. This is a balance that we've been paying down over time. So like on an absolute dollar basis, the fee has been coming down as we pay off the commercial paper. So when we're considering extension offers, we compare them with exploring a substitution, which you would do through an RFP process. When you do a substitution, if we were to substitute different banks, the transaction fees of doing that go up quite a bit. So an RFP would have to result, if we were to do an RFP, it would have to result in bids that come quite a bit lower than these extension offers in order to make that work. So we had our pricing reviewed. We have independent municipal advisor, an outside consulting firm. We had them review the pricing they do RFPs often on this, and their view is the pricing is really good in today's market, and that we'd be unlikely in an RFP process to get low enough rates for it to make sense to switch. And so in order to save costs, we're recommending that we extend the existing agreements with the existing two banks. Okay, so as the general manager said, this was presented at the Finance and Administration Committee this morning, and that was approved by the committee, and now it's before you. We're asking for the full board to approve the extensions. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And just so it's clear, the Finance Committee recommended
That is correct.
this morning.
Yes.
Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I'll move the item.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Director Lenny and a second by Director Young. If there's nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and was that a unanimous recommendation this morning?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Next, we have two actions related to the general salary increase for represented and non-represented staff. The general salary increase for represented employees was negotiated and is based on the San Francisco-Oakland Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical employees, plus 0.5% for a total of 3.4%. Consistent with our practice, we authorize the same increase for management, confidential, and non-represented employees. The two items can be considered in one vote.
Eric, Did you get your questions answered yesterday to your satisfaction? All right. No speakers?
No public comment.
Okay.
We,
There's one item for you to read, President McIntosh.
it's on the next page.
No.
It's a speech.
A long speech. Pursuant to Section 54953C3 of the Government Code, the Board of Directors is providing an oral report for item 8B. Prior to taking action on the salary schedule, and compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits paid to the members of the senior management team listed below, including the general manager and the general counsel, in accordance with Resolution Number 35269-22 and employment agreements with the general manager and the general counsel, the board may authorize the same general salary increases and benefits to the general manager and the general counsel as that granted to district employees at the department director level. As such, it is recommended that the general manager and the general counsel each receive a 3.4% increase to their current annual salary as set forth in their respective employment agreements, and commiserate with the 3.4% increase being granted to all district employees in this action, effective April 22nd, 2024. The 3.4% increase consists of a cost of living increase of 2.9% based on the Consumer Price Index and an additional 0.5% enhancement. Additionally, it is recommended that the following members of the senior management team also be granted a 5.4 increase in their current
It's a 3.4.
3.4 increase in their current annual salary, commensurate with the increase being granted to all district employees in this action, effective April 24th, 2023. 24,
April 22nd, 2024.
okay. Secretary of the district, Director of Engineering and Construction, Director of Finance, Director of Operations and Maintenance, Director of Wastewater, Director of Water and Natural Resources, Director of Customer and Community Services, Director of Human Resources, Special Assistant 3, Office of Diversity, Office of Diversity, Equity, and Culture, Special Assistant 4, Legislative Affairs, and Special Assistant 4, Public Affairs. The current salaries of the aforementioned members of the senior management team are contained in the salary schedule dated April 25th. 2023? Okay. On file with the Secretary of the district. Voice vote required. So we need a,
A and then B.
You can do it both as one.
I'll move adoption of 8A and 8B.
I'll second.
all right. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion was by Director Young and seconded by Director Lenny. All right. And that was both for 8A and B?
Correct.
All right. Mr. General Manager?
Okay, moving on. So as part of the appointment process to fill the vacant Ward 2 seat, the Ad Hoc Committee developed evaluation criteria and questions for the candidate interviews to be conducted on April 9th. Today, we're asking the board to approve the criteria and the interview questions, which are included in your board packet. But before you consider this item, I'd like to briefly review the process leading up to April 9th and then the appointment on April 23rd. Can you go next slide? So again, today, you'll consider approving the evaluation criteria and the interview questions. On March 28th, we will send the candidate packets to the entire board. We did receive 5 applications. On March 29th, the next day, the Secretary of the District will notify the candidates, and then we'll issue a press release on the candidates that had applied that will be interviewed on April 9th. The following week, we will send the interview questions and the evaluation criteria to the candidates. Next slide. At the April 9th board meeting, the interviews will begin at 4 p.m. The candidates will report to a waiting room prior to the interview, but then they can remain in the boardroom after their interview. The order of the interviews will be determined based on a random selection. Candidates, as was previously agreed to by the board, they'll have 15 minutes for the interview, 1 minute for opening remarks, 1 minute for closing remarks, and the remaining time for the 6 interview questions. That 15 minutes does not include any follow-up questions the board may have. Public comments will be held after all the interviews are completed. And then on April 9th, the board will also deliberate after public comment on who they would like to select to be appointed. If the board can't decide on April 9th, we can call a special meeting on April 16th. And then on April 23rd, the board will vote to appoint the candidate.
Clifford, who's asking the questions?
The board will be asking the questions.
We'll just go down the,
Yeah, so there's 6 questions, 1 question for each board member.
okay.
Next slide. So for,
Andy has a question.
Yeah, I see, and I recognize that I might have missed the opportunity to ask this during the ad hoc committee process, but I see that we are potentially appointing the candidate at the April 23rd board meeting. Is there a reason why we wouldn't simply appoint the candidate after deliberations on April 9th? Is there a reason why we wouldn't be able to do that so that that individual, should we not need additional time to deliberate, could take their office and begin preparing for the April 23rd board meeting as a representative of Ward 2?
well, I mean, I think the thought was at the time that, you know, we would need time to put together the board documents to do the appointment, since we don't, I mean, I guess we could prepare and just leave a blank space for who you want to appoint. We're also not sure how long this will take, but I mean, if that's what the board wishes, we could prepare all the documents and just leave a blank space for who you would like to appoint, and you can make that vote on the 9th.
I'll hold my reaction for the end of the presentation. Thanks.
We also have to notify, there's some process, we also have to notify the county. We can do that. We wouldn't be able to notify them that night, but some county notification processes and,
We could do that afterwards, though.
yeah.
Do we, I was assuming, I think we talked about this in our ad hoc committee as well, is that we would use a force ranking system on the criteria.
When we discussed the force ranking, that was only going to be used if we received many, many applications and the ad hoc committee wanted to narrow that list down.
That's, I thought we were going to use it in the interview, the way that we have done for the general manager and general counsel, just to have some level of, I don't know.
I mean, we can certainly provide that, you know, kind of rubric for the board to use as they narrow down their choices.
I mean, we are interviewing 5 people, so it's not, I mean, it's not like we're deciding between 2.
Yeah.
You know,
So the
we're
way
going
the,
5 to
yeah.
1 in, you know, presumably in one fell swoop. I suppose we could go from 5 to 2 and then have another interview as well, which kind of goes to Andy's question. If we couldn't narrow it down to one person that could get, you know, enough votes, that we might, you know,
Yeah,
Further window.
I certainly wouldn't.
The ad hoc committee was supposed to figure this stuff out.
I know.
yeah, we said if
before
there was
today.
if there were 6 or more, we would reduce it to 5, but based on past practice, when, in Lisa's case and somebody else's case, I mean, it's not like there've been a whole boatload of these, that everybody got interviewed. So, you know, I think there were 5 in your case, and I think there were
Or
all-
7. for Ward 1.
7.
I don't have the information for Ward 6, which was in 1997.
The ad hoc committee didn't deliberate over whether we would narrow the 5 applications once those applications actually were received last week. So that.
Well, if there weren't any, people that didn't really meet, I can say, I mean, April, Andy and I all received the application packets, and I was pretty impressed with the credentials of all 5 applicants. They're very there's a lot of variation in what they would bring to, board service, but all of them had, excellent references, stand-up resumes, community service, et cetera. So I think we're gonna we may have a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, it sounds like nobody merited removing from the board's consideration from the ad hoc committee's perspective, and I'm saying that, seeing nods and agreement from my colleagues on the ad hoc committee, even though we didn't have a meeting to deliberate about those resumes. What I would say is, if we should we come to consensus on April 9th, I see no reason why we wouldn't want that draft resolution with a blank in it, that we could move forward, and not delay Ward 2 being unrepresented. Should we need more time to deliberate, we should take that time. So that was what I was suggesting.
All right, including I think we should say including potential follow-up interviews.
Oh, my God.
Hey,
So-
well,
Oh, that's why we have committees. Flush this stuff
this is
out.
different than a.
Oh, my God.
So what I hear is,
Well, but this is.
I knew that would push your
This
button.
is a different deal, Lisa.
Yeah, it's always a different deal.
we'll bring all 5 candidates on April 9th. We will be prepared to appoint the candidate on April 9th if the board can reach a consensus on the candidate. And then we can provide a rubric for force rank choice. It's really just a guideline to think about
It's
things.
useful, I would
Yeah.
certainly welcome it.
So we can do all that, and, there is time. We do have to make the appointment by April 23rd, otherwise we go outside the time limits in the MUD Act. So it really does have to be done by that board meeting. So we have a little cushion, but we'll shoot to get everything done by April 9th. So I think what's important today, to keep the process moving, is does the board agree with the criteria and the questions that the ad hoc committee had prepared?
So we need a vote.
I do.
Okay. If there's nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
No,
We haven't have a motion
we have a
yet.
motion and a
I'll
second.
move adoption of the process and criteria and questions.
I'll second.
As amended?
No amendments to the criteria and questions.
Okay, all right.
And does that incorporate the preparation of a draft appointment resolution?
That's not for today, but I've heard your feedback, and we'll be prepared for the 9th.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't think that.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Okay, moving on, Derek McDonald will conduct the continued second reading of the amendments to the campaign finance reform ordinance.
We're gonna get set up for you, Derek. You are ready? Click one time and you should be ready.
Good afternoon, President McIntosh and members of the board. This afternoon, the recommended action is to conduct a continued second reading of amendments to the East Bay Municipal Utility District Campaign Finance Reform Ordinance number 316, and then to adopt an ordinance to amend the Campaign Finance Reform Ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending ordinance number 316 entitled East Bay Municipal Utility District Campaign Finance Reform Ordinance. So that was a mouthful, but today I just wanted to go through a brief review of the proposed revisions to the ordinance, open it up for further discussion, and then consider the adoption of the ordinance approving those revisions. Just as a recap, proposed revisions have been brought to and discussed in the Legislative Human Resources Committee on January 9th and February 13th. The first reading was conducted at the regular board meeting on February 27th. A second reading was conducted on March 12th, and we're here today for the continued second reading and potential adoption of the ordinance.
Hi, Derek.
Yes.
Can I add that we actually voted on March 12th? We voted to adopt the changes.
You had voted to recommend changes, which I have incorporated into the draft revised ordinance. And then today, we're here to adopt the ordinance adopting those changes.
Okay.
So your last vote was to provide me with the direction on which changes you wanted to incorporate into the ordinance itself. And it's kind of a cumbersome process. We kind of follow the statutory guidelines for cities and counties. There really isn't one for special districts. The salient point is that as long as we really try and make it clear to the public through our agendas and our published documents what we're doing here, and I believe we've done that. So.
Okay.
So just briefly going through some non-substantive and housekeeping revisions. We've reorganized definitions alphabetically. We've clarified certain definitions. We've noted that the Levine Act applies to to donations under the ordinance. We've updated the voluntary expenditure limit from 53 cents to 80 cents per ward resident, which reflects actual CPI adjustments since 2010. Updated advertisement disclaimer requirements, and we've mandated website publishing of contribution limits as a best practice, which is something we're already doing. The ordinance simply makes it law. Some housekeeping revisions include correcting and updating reference to the CPI, clarifying the definition of net debts outstanding from the election, using the non-binary term there throughout and referencing persons, and updating references to the Political Reform Act and other terms consistently throughout the ordinance. Substantive revisions that have been discussed extensively and were voted upon by the board at the last meeting for inclusion were increasing the contribution limit for persons from $600 to $2,000, increasing the contribution limit for small contributor committees to $4,000, adjusting the small contribution committee limit biannually based on the CPI, just like we do on the limit for persons, increasing the limit on a candidate's personal loan to the candidate's own committee from $10,000 to $25,000, and extending the prohibition on contributions from contractors to any person bidding on a board-approved contract and not just contracts that aren't subject to the low bid requirements. And so with that, I open it up for discussion and potential adoption of the ordinance, which has been provided in your packets. Yes.
I mean, I'm ready to move the ordinance. We've talked about this for a long time.
Pointing out that we pretty much already decided last meeting.
I'm ready to move the ordinance.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill, did you have something? No?
No.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. If there's nothing further, we have a motion by Director Chan, seconded by Director Lenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, Derek.
Thank you. And just to remind you, this is the first revision of this ordinance in 14 years, so congratulations.
Thank you, Derek. So for our last item, it's our water supply update. And we have Dave Briggs here, our Director of Operations and Maintenance, to provide the update.
Okay, thank you, Clifford. Hello, President McIntosh. Congratulations on your service. Hello, board members. And if, Risha, if you're ready, just click. Okay. There we go. And yeah, point out the wildflowers out there. This is Comanche watershed, or actually near the reservoir, but get out in the East Bay watershed right now because it's going to be spectacular for the next month or so. Okay, water production is tracking low still. We had a little bit of an uptick there midway through March as we ran through a dry spell, but it turned wet and cold again last weekend and demand fell off again. And really remarkable how steady it is through the winter. People are really holding off on that irrigation controllers. So we'll see. We've got another wet period on the way here, but it'll take off eventually as we get through April. But we're still, through this calendar year of 2024, we are 1% below calendar year 2023 up to this point. So still, the low keeps getting lower. Let's see, so East Bay precipitation, every time I look at this, I have a hard time believing it because it seems like it's raining a lot, around here at least. But we're 71% normal in the East Bay. There are other gauges nearby. This is an average of 2 gauges. One's at USL Water Treatment Plant and the other one's at Lafayette Reservoir. Lafayette actually, for whatever reason, has gotten relatively little rainfall this year. But other nearby sites in the East Bay are several inches above this. The Oakland Airport, I think, is up at 20 inches. So it's just a weird a hole in the rain clouds here. But 71% is not too bad. This doesn't reflect about an inch or so that we got over the weekend, and there's more coming on the way, which I'll talk about. Upcountry is different, 90% average of all the precipitation there. So again, rain and snow, it's all converted into water for the purpose of this chart. So upcountry is 90%. So this averages the mid and the upper elevations. We expect to get another 2 inches of precipitation in the next 10 days. That will manifest itself as probably 18 inches of snow at 8,000 feet. So we've got more coming. And so here, this is the snowpack at 8,000 feet. This is the one metric we have that is above normal. It's interesting because this year, we talk about this all the time with the staff is how to make this year sound extraordinary or interesting in any way. And the word we keep coming back to is it's extraordinarily unextraordinary. Some of the metrics are a little above, some are below, but this is just one of those years where there's frankly nothing remarkable, which is good because this is more than enough water for us and our needs. But the storms have been moderate and we haven't gotten too much or too little. But the snow up there at 8,000 feet is actually doing quite well. Statewide snowpack, so this is water content all across the Sierras looking pretty good. Even in the southern Sierra is not so bad. Northern California is doing very well. And just to show you what reservoirs across Northern California look like, I think Shasta and Oroville are not in flood control anymore. But they're doing very well, so we'd expect to see statewide allocations be very good for the state and the State Water Project and the CVP this year. And finally, our own situation, you can see that we have a high likelihood of ending up full going into next year. So that's what the chart on the right shows. We're above average storage right now. We were, as you can tell, right in the middle of the graphic, the chart, the black line, you see the dip there. We were in flood control mode there with about 800 CFS releases out of Comanche for several weeks, but we're out of the flood reservation period at this point, and so that's how you'll start to see our storage climb. Even if it's very wet or very dry, we're going to build our storage in the next few months and probably under all scenarios, end up with full going into next year, which is great. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
That's the end of my reports, and at your places is the Speaker's Bureau.
All right. Committee reports. The board met earlier for the Recycled Water Strategic Plan Workshop where staff provided background on the district's recycled water goal, California policy, and regulatory impacts relating to recycled water, the process to prepare the 2024 Recycled Water Strategic Plan, key recycled water project updates and challenges, change conditions and considerations, and potential future opportunities. The minutes from the March 12th, 2024 Planning and Human Resources Committee meetings were included in your agenda materials. We will now receive an update from this morning's Finance Administration Committee from Director Katz.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance and Administration Committee met this morning and recommended 2 of the items that the board has already approved, extending commercial paper liquidity agreements and the monthly transactions report. We also did receive a report on our, looking for the precise title, but this was the responding to previous concerns around project performance delays. We had a very good report from staff about improvements And we expect that there will be the matter will be coming to the full board at our second meeting in April to report back on that progress.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Please submit items for future consideration to the General Manager's office. Director comments. Thank you if you've already submitted your comments to the Secretary. Are there any other verbal director comments or reports? I know Director Patterson, Vice President Patterson, has a report on something very special he just experienced.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And first, I wanted to express appreciation to the notes, comments, and emails that I received from some staff here and beyond related to last Saturday and this is from the Niagara Movement Foundation. It is one of the oldest organizations in the East Bay that goes beyond politics and deals with the people, and especially focuses on youth and passing the torch, so to speak. I was selected for the Niagara Movement Foundation's Legacy Award. And I think they reached back and grabbed me because I always seem to be there. Many of them I helped in their formative years when they were growing up, and they bloomed and blossomed and really became the focus of the Oakland community, in particular for its Black residents, and making sure that everybody was at the table and being counted as things evolved in the city. I was very happy to have some of the board members present. Even more happy to have had the general manager there. And they could see from what was put together, the composure, the level of personages represented, even going back to some of our old city mayors, Elihu Harris in particular. I just wanted to say the name Virtual Morale should be remembered because he was a staff member to Leo Brazil, who was one of our city council persons at the time. And they all came along the time of Lionel Wilson, who was my best friend and mayor of the city. And I had a chance to really shake hands and visit with many of the men and women that now constitute leadership in this city. More importantly, I got to talk to some of the young folk who were present and being honored representing McClymonds High School, one of my old high schools, and the staff that came along with them. So the linchpin of this is, it seemed that a focus has been made in the city, and I'm hoping that the beam of the focus continues, not so much to me, but what we used to be and what we've been able to bring forward and how we need to now crystallize and go forth in the future with love in the leadership and a caring for each other all across all lines. That's the only thing that's going to revive and move this sector forward. And so I'm an advocate for that. And I wanted just to share with you what I try to represent everywhere, and that is bringing us together. This is the Legacy Award, and I want to thank my representatives who are here on this board and all the people who participated in it. If you didn't get to see it, I think you saw it, or did you see it?
I didn't see it up close.
Well, you'll get it. Anyway, you pass that around and you can get it. You can see it.
Says, thank you, Bill, for being a soldier.
I think it's coincidental, but I had crossed the country last weekend. I went to pay homage to my sister who passed away. And in moving over to BWI in Columbus, I had a chance to really see in action a room full of people who came from everywhere to that place to pay respect to her. And while we were, some of the ones, my sister and I and my nephew who went along with us to do the driving in the city, got to see the depth of my sister. The Howard University people who were on hand, where she retired from, and many of the people in the organizations that she represented. And in that community of education, in that community of top-notch performance in the reporting on such areas as her writing an editor of the journal on Negro youth education across America. She continued to be a pilot as she was the editor who had carried them those many years. And so I want to end by saying today that her going out signals some things to me that I've been staying alert for. And so you'll be hearing from me in the future, but I want to say today, she helped pave the way for me as my in-house shero, because she truly was. And still, the things she did stand for marquee in America. She's the top of the heap, so to speak. I thank you very much for listening to me, primarily because I can always talk about family. And you are my family here at East Bay MUD, so I share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
It was quite an event to see the love in the room for this man. So it was really good to be there. Thank you for having us.
Are there any other director comments?
I just mentioned that I had a chance to give a talk at the Alameda Rotary Club this last week or so. Thank you to the staff for helping with the preparation for that talk. The main topic was on climate change and East Bay MUD. And I think there was a lot of things that people hadn't realized, got a lot of good questions, and enjoyed presenting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doug. Well, the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors of East Bay MUD will be held on Tuesday, April 9th at 1:15 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.